here we are then, ladles and jelly spoons, episode 52 of the Off the Rails podcast, with me, your host, the offrailgamer. We're just a little under a week away from the end of 8-Bit April over on TikTok and YouTube, but never fear, you can of course watch these shorts back any time you please. But of course you'll note that we do still have a few videos left as well, so be sure to check back each day. We still have some gems on the Atari VCS and Sega Master System to explore together. You can find links to my YouTube and TikTok in the podcast episode description, along with my Twitch, which hasn't seen much use lately. And lastly, the keen-eyed among you will spot my email address, offrailgamer@gmail.com. We have a semi-regular segment in the podcast called Listeners' Whispers, in which I read and respond to messages sent in from you, the listeners at home. Please keep your messages clean and refrain from being mean. I like to keep the show family friendly because 1, I don't know who might end up listening, and 2, it's nice to have a little sanctuary away from the woes of the world to escape to once a fortnight. That's the intro pretty much over, although I have 2 key announcements to make before we move on to the next segment. The first is that Off the Rails turns 2 years old on Sunday the 4th of May, and in celebration I'll be posting up a special bonus episode. Like last year, it probably won't be a full-length episode, but I do feel like we need to do something to mark the occasion. Following this, I will be taking a short break from Off the Rails, so this will be the last episode until 15th of May, but don't worry, I'm kicking off a new podcast series called Tales from the Consoleverse, in which I'll be telling stories about some of your favourite video game characters. It's my intention that you'll get a brand new episode of this new series every day the week commencing the 5th of May. Thereafter, I'm not sure what the frequency of the new show will be. I'd like to make it at least fortnightly, alternating week on week with Off the Rails, but all I can say for now is it will be as frequent as my schedule will allow. Now, with those exciting announcements made, I'm going to tell you about the games I've been playing recently. It's the part of the show that I call what I've been playing recently. Not too long ago now, I got my hands on the Mafia trilogy for PS4, which includes the definitive remakes of the first 2 games. These removed cheat codes from the games, which shouldn't be a problem anyway, and besides, I think they've made some aspects of the game easier, because I really didn't struggle too much with the race car bit. If you know, you know. I will say the controls aren't the best, particularly when you're in the middle of a shootout with dozens of enemies. I'd say even PS2's The Godfather did it better, but fistfights are good fun in this game. Elements of the storyline definitely feel recycled from different gangster films, certainly in the first game, which I've been playing. But with so many gangster films and games out there, I'd be surprised if it had managed to be totally original. Saying that, the game isn't just a carbon copy of other stories that have been told before it, and it does enough of its own thing to make it enjoyable. It's interesting because the family you join are kinda small fry. You aren't working for the guys that run everything in the city, which means things are rarely straightforward or nicely go your way. I haven't finished the first game yet, so I don't know what I'll make of the other 2. Personally, I would have preferred it to be more open world rather than the linear do this mission, then do this mission, without ever having the opportunity to explore, but that's only really like LA Noire, and I like that game well enough. I probably haven't sold it very well, but I really am enjoying playing Mafia for the first time, and I would recommend it to anyone else who hasn't played it yet. Do I think it could have been improved with a few changes? Sure, but that doesn't prevent it from being fun to play, and that's the most important thing, in my opinion, is games should be fun. Not a dig at God of War Ragnarok. I promise. It's less than a month and a half until the Nintendo Switch 2 releases, and I cannot wait to get to play Mario Kart World. As such, I jumped back into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and do you know, it's been such a long time I don't think I tried the last 2 cups that were released. But I have now, and they consisted of some really fun levels. I also took the opportunity to jump back into some online races. At first I did get rinsed a bit, but it didn't take long before I found my groove again, and even got to don the crown after one race. That's right, I stole first place, and got a couple of bronze medals too. It scratched the itch a bit, but I am still eagerly awaiting the new game, as I say. I'm intrigued by the new feature allowing you to explore the world map at your own pace, and how you'll actually drive between tracks because, as the title suggests, it is going to be a Mario Kart world in which all the racecourses are going to exist on one map. I briefly hopped back into Monster Hunter Wilds and progressed the story a little. I still don't care for my NPC allies, they're super annoying. And I still maintain that the combat was better in Monster Hunter Rise. Saying that, the game is diverting enough and still makes you feel like a bit of a badass bringing down some of the colossal monsters. But the game I've been playing that has really sucked up every waking hour of my days has been Stardew Valley. And by the way, I have plenty I want to talk about with this game. You see, there's been an update, and Concerned Ape has added so much to the game. We'll start with the small stuff. The residents of Pelican Town now wear warmer clothes in the winter. Not a big change, but it does make for greater realism and immersion. Twice a month, a bookseller visits Stardew Valley in a hot air balloon. You can buy and read literature to learn abilities and improve skills such as combat, fishing, mining, etc. Mr. Chi drops mystery boxes all over the valley which can be found and cracked by the blacksmith like a geode. Okay, some bigger things then. There's a whole new farm you can play on, the Meadowlands farm, which starts you out with a coop and 2 chickens. Bluegrass grows on the farm, and I found that the grass doesn't all die in the winter either. There's a green rain which makes new exotic trees spring up, not just all over your farm, but all over Pelican Town too. And if you put a tapper on them, they'll give you fiddlehead fern. And lastly, I want to talk about the 2 new annual festivals that have been added to the game. One is the annual Trout Festival, in which you might hook golden tags that you can trade in for prizes, like a single-use tent you could spend the night in if you're not going to make it home before you pass out at 2 a.m. The other festival is held in the Calico Desert. You can accept fishing challenges from Willy, or take expeditions into the Skull Caverns for Marlon, or even bet on critter races, all to earn Calico eggs that you can trade in for prizes, including a prismatic shard. There's always been plenty to do in Stardew Valley, but if you jump back in now, like I did, it'll feel almost like an entirely new game. Well, almost. Anyway, that's what I've been playing recently, and also a little bit of what I'm looking forward to have been playing recently in just over a month's time. Wait there a moment and listen to this lovely jingle I composed, and I'll go and open the Retro Marcade. In the last segment, I talked about my excitement for the new Nintendo Switch 2 and the upcoming Mario Kart World, and so while I'm feeling so enthusiastic about the franchise, I figured I'd talk about Mega Man. No, I didn't. We're going to have a look at Mario Kart. Is it an arcade game? Yes, there's an arcade near me where you can play Mario Kart, and that's what we have here in the Retro Marcade. Even if it is a relatively modern game, kind of taking the retro out of, Mario Kart was released in 1992 in Japan and North America, and a year later, Europe for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. SNES. It went on to become the 4th best-selling SNES game of all time, selling a whopping 8.76 million copies worldwide. So the game started out on home console and eventually moved into arcades, which is the opposite direction of travel to all the other games we've covered in this segment in recent weeks. It would only take 13 years as well, as Mario Kart Arcade GP first released in 2005. Since then, 3 new iterations have come out: Mario Kart Arcade GP2 in 2007, Mario Kart Arcade DX in 2013, and Mario Kart Arcade VR in 2017, although that last one never released outside of Japan. Let's talk about the game then. Mario Kart is of course a kart racer. That's kart with a K, by the way. You're not just whizzing your way around a racetrack trying to cross the finish line first. As you whiz around the racetrack trying to cross the finish line in first place, you'll pick up all sorts of goodies, like speed boosts, banana skins you can drop on the track to make your opponents slip up, and of course, the blue shell. The blue shell will always home in on whoever's in first place and blow them up, often allowing everyone in 2nd to 7th place to overtake. It really is a winner's nightmare. It's a well-known formula at this point with other games like Crash Team Racing, Sonic Racing, Nickelodeon, SpongeBob. Well, there's a pretty extensive list at this point. Heck, even Wipeout bears more than a slight resemblance, though arguably that was modelled after F-Zero. Unless I'm getting my history in a muddle here. If I may, I think you'll find F-Zero was first released in 1990, whereas Wipeout began life a full 5 years later, so what I said earlier does at least make chronological sense, whether you agree with me or not. I think my first introduction to Mario Kart was Double Dash on the GameCube. This allowed you to buddy up with one player driving and the other throwing the weapons, if you wanted to. Or you could just go head-to-head, controlling both driver and gunner. All I'll say is the Double Dash version of Rainbow Road is infuriating. Oh, it makes me want to use some strong language, but if I ask my listeners to keep their whispers clean, the least I can do is to keep the rest of my script equally squeaky. It's fair to say I've spent much more time with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. I really do love that game, and it's one I feel confident enough playing online as well. Only time will tell how I get on with World. At which point, I should say this episode is not sponsored. I'm just super hyped. Anyway, I suppose I should look up here so we can get on with the rest of the show. Anyone fancy some gaming news? Monster Patch was originally set to be a PC exclusive, but with its Kickstarter meeting its initial funding goal in just 16 minutes, it's now reached enough to make a Switch port possible as well. The game is being marketed as having original Pokemon game aesthetics with Stardew Valley vibes. Do you wonder why this story caught my attention? It's got all this week's buzzwords: Switch, Stardew Valley. The game will see players capturing Mons to battle archwizards of rival houses while mastering their wizarding spellbook, recruiting townsfolk, and uncovering the secrets of Monster Patch. The game is expected to drop in December 2025, so let's watch this space. Short segment this week, but that's all that caught my eye. Honestly, you'd be forgiven for thinking I've been put on the payroll at Nintendo, though I assure you I haven't. I don't have any listeners' whispers to read out, which means I've got to think of something to talk about quick. Luckily, I've got until this music finishes playing, and then I'll be back with the main part of the show. You can thank Retro Revival Tom for what I'm about to do, as he inspired me to get into using ChatGPT, and now I'm somewhat of an addict. So here's a little something AI has written that I will perform for your likely unenjoyment. By the way, what I'm about to do is on me, so please don't blame Tom in any way for this. Hey, good to be here. Nice crowd, real nice. You all look like people who played at least one video game and yelled at the screen like it personally betrayed you. I've been gaming since I was a kid, and I gotta say, it used to be simple. You picked up a controller, you played a game, and if you lost, you just blamed your little brother and unplugged his controller. That was gaming. Now, gaming's a full-time job. Every game's like, welcome to this fantasy world. Here's your sword, your map, your unpaid internship. Like, I'm 12 minutes in and I've already got a mortgage in the game. a house, taxes. I'm doing spreadsheets in Stardew Valley. I didn't sign up for this. You ever play a game so intense you forget it's not real life? I finished a session of Call of Duty and genuinely said, "Clear," before walking into my bathroom. Like, bro, it's 2 a.m. and the only enemy in there is your reflection. And he looks disappointed. And online multiplayer? That's not gaming, that's psychological warfare. Nothing humbles you faster than getting teabagged by someone with a username like XXNoScopeMom69XX. Like, how are you 12 years old with perfect aim and zero respect for humanity? I miss the old days. Local multiplayer, couch co-op. You could see the person ruining your life. You'd sit next to your best friend, he'd screen cheat on GoldenEye and you'd hit him with the controller. That was bonding. Now it's just, oh, I died? Cool. I guess I'll get harassed by a child on a headset who sounds like he's still doing phonics homework. Get good, loser! I banged your mum! Like, dude, go do your maths homework and leave me in peace. Games are getting too real now, though. Like, the graphics are so good, my PlayStation wheezes every time I start a game. It sounds like it's struggling, like it's begging me not to open another open world. I turned on Cyberpunk and my console was like, "Please, I have a family." I played The Last of Us and halfway through I was like, am I sad? Am I too sad? It's not even a game anymore, it's therapy with zombies. Games these days love side quests. You're supposed to be saving the world and suddenly some random villagers like, "Hero, my prized goat has been kidnapped by bandits." And I'm like, bro, the apocalypse is happening. Maybe don't worry about the goat right now. But of course you do the quest because in games you'll do anything except the main mission. You'll be over 100 hours in, your character's dressed like a glitter wizard, you've got 27 swords and no idea what the actual plot is. If you've ever thrown a controller playing Mario Kart, I see you. You're not alone. We're a damaged people. Mario Kart is the only game where you can go from first place to public humiliation in 3 seconds. No, I don't know how I ended up in the middle of Asda wearing a urine-soaked Spyro onesie. Wait, what? You're flying, you're winning, you're like, yes, this is my moment. When, sorry, Martine McCutcheon, blue shell, lightning, banana peel, somehow you missed, and now Toad zooms past you smiling like he paid your therapist to schedule a follow-up. I've lost more friendships on Rainbow Road than in real life. You think Monopoly ruins friendships? Nah, try getting hit with a blue shell from your best friend who laughed and said, "It's just a game." You don't say that in Mario Kart. That's like saying, "calm down," to someone who's already mad. You ever think about how weird Mario's life is? Like, the dude's a plumber, but when's the last time you saw him fix an actual pipe? He's out here doing parkour over lava pits, fighting turtles, eating strange mushrooms that make him better at fighting. I'm looking at a leaky tap thinking one of us is doing this wrong, right? Lara Croft is the only person I know who makes breaking and entering look like cardio. She's not an archaeologist, she's a British ninja with a ponytail and commitment issues. First of all, Lara's rich, super rich, like, I fly private jets to lost civilizations, rich. Meanwhile, I can't afford a museum ticket, and she's over here base jumping into ancient temples like, "Excuse me, I believe this sacred artifact belongs in my trophy room." And can we talk about Lara's outfits? She's spelunking through volcanic ruins in shorts. Shorts! I can't even walk through long grass without googling how to treat insect bites, and she's out here doing acrobatics in Satan's hallway wearing a crop top. In the games, you solve puzzles like rotate the ancient sundial in the correct pattern or die by spikes. Then here's me, can't even get into a jar of pickles. Yes, I'm sure I'm twisting it the correct direction. The day I learned righty-tighty, lefty-loosey was no help, 'cause who honestly knows right from left when you've got a sweat on trying to get into the Branston jar to fancy up your cheese sandwich? You ever notice Lara never eats? She'll climb 1,000-foot cliffs, jump gaps, solve puzzles, and there's not a single scene where she stops and says, "Hold on, I need a granola bar." Not that I think she'd get anywhere near as much achieved if she spent half the game queuing in Mackies for a Big Mac and a McFlurry. I wouldn't want to be the one to tell her the machine's out of order either, not when you see how she reacts any time someone tries to tell her no. You ever play Max Payne? It's the only game where you can dive in slow motion through a doorway with a shotgun and still somehow feel emotionally empty afterward. It's less of a video game and more like if Batman got addicted to painkillers and narrated everything like a slam poet in a thunderstorm. The rain fell like broken promises. I was drowning in a city that forgot how to care. I reached for my gun the way a drunk reaches for the next bottle. Dude, I'm just trying to reach the next level, not come up with lyrics to the next Radiohead album. Let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, the only character who can sprint at the speed of light but still manage to lose all his friends, rings and dignity every 12 minutes. Sonic is what happens when Red Bull gets turned into a mammal. He wears these massively oversized red sneakers that he never takes off, runs faster than a fighter jet, and somehow never gets blisters. I wear the wrong socks and after 10 minutes I'm walking like I survived a war. Why does Sonic collect rings? Like gold floating wedding bands. Everywhere. And if you get hit, you don't die, you just violently explode into rings like some flipping piñata. Imagine walking down the street, stubbing your toe, and suddenly you're like, "Ah, my life savings!" And what's the deal with Dr. Robotnik? He's got a PhD in, what? Building robots that look like zoo animals. I had one of those Lego Technic sets as a kid that did the same thing. I built a giraffe and a rhino that would walk to the edge of the table and throw itself to the floor, breaking into dozens of little pieces, like some kind of metaphor for life. You try and build something good, taking care and dedicating time to it, only to see it broken down in an instant. But yeah, Robotnik doesn't look like a man who's into his cardio, and yet he has no trouble keeping up with a hedgehog who runs 700 miles per hour. Sonic's always like, "I'm the fastest thing alive," and Robotnik just replies, "Cool, but I built this mech that looks like a giant crab. See you at the final boss fight." Listen, gaming and video games, they don't always have to make sense, which is just as well as we've seen today, and let's be honest, if they weren't totally bonkers at times, they might not have quite the same appeal. To get serious for just a moment, we could load up Train Sim World. But the truth is, video games offer us something different, an escape from the real world when it gets... Wait, have you seen what's been happening lately? I've been roasting video games this episode when in actual fact they're starting to make way more sense than the real world. I think where we've got ourselves today, I probably wouldn't even blink if I saw a bullet bill roaring round the M25 or a foul-mouthed red squirrel storming the beaches of Normandy. Maybe some games over the years have tried to reflect reality more and more, or maybe reality is starting to reflect the nonsense we get up to in our games. Whichever way round it is, we gamers have years of experience under our belts, so should be well placed to face it. Guys, you've been a terrific audience once again, and by crikey we'll be celebrating 2 years of your continued awesomeness soon enough. Please look out for our birthday bonus episode on 4th of May, and then I should be back with more Off the Rails on the 15th of May. A quick reminder, I will be uploading Tales from the Consoleverse starting Monday the 5th of May, and I should have 5 episodes going up that week. You'll be able to find it in all the same places, YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify and Castbox. Well, till next time then. Bye!